Hey everybody, I just wanted to do a quick video today to talk about Suyu. And I wanted to talk about it because it's just everywhere right now. Whenever you look at anything Switch emulation related, it's just all over the headlines. Everyone's talking about Suyu. Apparently the other day, they allegedly received a DMCA takedown and have since, I think, moved over or at least changed their hosting or maybe self-hosting now. But I want to talk about the project. And if you watched my last video on easily setting up Switch emulation on Batacera, you can download, if you go to their website, suyu.dev, you can go to the download here, which will download an app image. And if you've done the steps in my setting up Switch emulation video that just came out pretty recently, you just need to name this yuzu.appimage and replace the yuzu.appimage that's in your user data system switch folder, and then go launch it. I would go in Batacera to the F1 menu, go to applications, and launch it from there first, because you're going to need to do some configuration. You're probably going to want to make sure that your controller is set up properly. For me, I think it defaulted to like Pro Controller keyboard, so I just instead of keyboard, I picked either my controller or I think I set it to any and saved the input config. You'll need to go to the tools menu on it. I think it was the tools menu. But in the Suyu emulator, there's a place to install firmware, and it's going to want your prod.keys. So I just browsed on my Batacera system to where I have those, which is in user data, BIOS, switch. Uh, and then I also had to, and I'm not going to go into the details of it here, but I also copied over some .nca firmware files from the Yuzu path on my Batocera system to the Suyu path on my Batocera system, and that actually got it working. But the thing is, I did it just to test to see if it would be that easy to get Suyu working. It is, um, but I switched back just to the version 1734 of Yuzu because there really hasn't been anything done major to Suyu at this point. And you're going to see about the same performance in games. You're not really going to see, a dramatic improvement in running Suyu over that last version of Yuzu. So I'm just going to stick with that last version of Yuzu for now. And probably for the immediate future, what I'm going to do is continue using that version of Yuzu for the games that it runs and I think works well with on my system. And for other games, newer titles, maybe where games start to come out where Yuzu's not working as well, I'll probably use something like Ryujinx. And that's just because Ryujinx is still out there, it's still being developed, and it's been out there for a while. So, it kind of knows what it wants to do. It has the development team established and the contributors established. And I feel like they've got more of a plan of what they want to do because they've been there for a while. Whereas Suyu, and I'm not trying to knock them completely, I'm just saying that, who knows, maybe they will be the next great Switch emulator at some point. But what I'm saying now is they're just not there. And what's concerning to me is how sort of in your face they are. They really seem to be trying to get their name out there, which is concerning to me because I just feel like we as people just have an inherently short attention span. And when you're screaming, look at me, I'm the next big thing, and we look at you and we don't really see much there, you're going to lose our attention really fast. And one day when you do have something of value to show, it's going to be that much more difficult for you to get us to look your way again. Also, things that are concerning are okay, we look at their by the numbers. They posted dedicated contributors, 80 plus. I mean, that's great, I guess, but I kind of have trouble with the word dedicated here, and that's because it really feels like this started after Yuzu went away. This doesn't feel like something that was in the planning stages for the past year that just happened to choose this moment as the go live. it it really, like, how can you say they're dedicated after such a short period of time? If you want to wait 6 months, a year, and then tell me about your dedicated contributors, then I would be more likely to believe it. But this early on, 80 plus, sure, you may have 80 plus contributors right now, but people that are actually contributing code on a fairly regular basis. But what if half of them drop out in 3 months? I mean, you just don't know how dedicated they are yet with a project that's at this stage of like its infancy. We got 4,000 plus supported games. I'm going to go ahead and say that was mostly the legwork of Yuzu and using their code. So as a standalone project, I mean, sure, those games may work with your emulator, but it seems like you're touting this as something you accomplished and you just haven't. And then 32,000 plus members on Discord. Yeah, okay, that one's believable. I can believe that. I'm not really big on Discord, but whatever. I know a lot of gamers love it. I'm just not a big multiplayer. I'm doing my best to keep single player alive. Maybe I'm just old. I don't know, but just Discord is not my thing. And we've got links to their Discord, another link to their Git. That's fine. They say they're community run. It's completely free, no option to monetarily support the project. Which is just, it's funny to me that they say this because I think if you're developing an emulator, you're not using any prior knowledge. You're basically staying in line pretty much with the decisions that were made back with Sony versus Bleem or Connectix, whoever it was back in the day. I think you're allowed, or at least you should be allowed, to charge for it. Now, I know there's this unspoken rule with emulator developers that, oh, you don't ever charge people for your work. But I think if you're doing work on an emulator, you can absolutely paywall some of it. Um, I think kind of the reason that most emulator developers are going to tell you not to is not because it's the legality of getting paid for your work. I think it comes down mostly, and again, this is just my opinion, to the fact that companies, like if you're doing something like Switch, you're in Nintendo's territory at this point, and charging for it may be more likely to get their eye on you. And they may not have a case against you for the fact that you're charging for it, but you're looking at a company that just by default does not like that you exist. And now that you've got their attention, they're going to look for whatever legal reason they can find. And odds are, unless you're being excruciatingly careful and monitoring what everyone does who contributes code, the odds are they're going to find something. Or in the case of a company like Nintendo, they don't have to find something. They just have to threaten you because odds are you don't have the finances to go up against them in a long, drawn out court battle. Which is why we can, for the most part, only speculate on why Yuzu accepted a settlement with them. From my point of view, odds are the Yuzu team or Tropic Haze, they got legal counsel, and their legal counsel looked at everything and said, look, guys, this is going to be a tough one, and I can't guarantee a win, and here's probably the damages they're going to ask for when this goes to court. Because people look at it and say, oh, they paid $2.4 million. That's a ton of money. I'm like, that is a lot of money, but it's probably a drop into the bucket of what Nintendo would have asked for in damages had they gone to court and lost. So let's check out the blog. Oh, wait, it's not here. Let's check out docs. Oh, wait, it's not here. But they didn't waste any time getting the frequently asked questions up. And question one, I mean, it's the one that's on everybody's mind. How is this project different from Yuzu? how do we know you won't have the same fate as Yuzu? The answer given here is, unlike Yuzu, Suyu does not include many of the core requirements to run it. You need to legally dump your Nintendo Switch to obtain a title.keys file, which Yuzu did not do. Additionally, you must dump your own firmware. Okay, so that seems like a valid answer, except I feel like they looked online and saw people speculating that, oh yeah, Nintendo sued them because they were, they paywalled something. And it's like, no, Nintendo sued them because Nintendo's stance, whether it's legal or not, and has not been argued in court, so Nintendo can have their opinion on it, is that providing your own like title and prod keys files, your own keys files, and your own firmware is not enough. As far as Nintendo is concerned, and is likely very prepared to argue in court, being able to add anything to your emulator that allows it to decrypt is a problem. If it could decrypt whatever encryption they have in place, it doesn't matter who added the files, where they came from. Nintendo is saying that is illegal. So basically their answer here does not necessarily exclude it from having the same fate as Yuzu. So I'm not sure why they think this. It just seems like sort of wild speculation. I don't think there's really anything that interesting here. Really, my concern for this comes from it just seems like there wasn't a lot of planning put into place. Um, it seems more like they're trying to get developers and contributors to join rather than having already worked that out and having like a core team. Because I feel like most emulator projects that have been successful, they have a core team of developers. They may have contributors, hundreds or more of contributors from around the world, but they've got pretty much a core team to work with and help manage things and make sure they're all kind of on the same page and going in the right direction. And this seems to be lacking that. So, like I said in the beginning of this video, this may turn out to be the next great thing. I just don't think it's there yet. I don't think it's anywhere near being there. And for what it's worth, I think I will stick to the final version of Yuzu that was released. And going forward, like I said, at least for the immediate future, Ryujinx is what I'm going to be using. And, maybe we'll see what happens here. But my prediction is we're all going to forget, in probably a short period of time, we're all going to forget about Suyu and any of the other emulators that have come out to replace Yuzu that have been trying to get our attention so hard. And what's going to happen is in some number of months, maybe next year, maybe a little bit longer, I think some emulator is going to show up seemingly out of nowhere, and they're going to say, hey, we've actually been working on this since Yuzu got shut down, but we didn't really have much to show. There weren't a lot of advancements, so that's why it's been, this many months or this many years. But, here's what we have now. We're ready to share it with you, and I think it's going to be awesome. But it's going to be something we've never heard of because they're going to keep quiet about it to avoid the situation where we're so excited for it that we look at it and then we're disappointed. And then, it's just, I think that some of these that are just coming out now that we're hearing about are just really there for their 15 minutes of fame, and that's it. Or maybe they mean well and they really want to carry on the project, but it's just a little more than they can handle. Yeah, I just have some concerns. That's all. I just don't think it's there for general. I don't think it's ready for general consumption yet, and maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. That's up to you. If you're using it now and you're okay with it, that's fine. Again, it's really basically the same as the last version of Yuzu, so if you've already switched over to Suyu, there's not really a problem with it. It's just my concern is like its future going forward, and will they be able to improve it? Do they have enough of a plan in place, short of let's just be the next Yuzu and see where things end up. But yeah, that's just sort of my 2 cents on this matter. And I'm probably not going to talk much about Switch emulation in general for a little while. Not because of anything having to do with Yuzu, or not because someone's told me not to talk about it, but just because I think I'm just going to leave it alone. I think there's going to be enough channels out there that just continuously beat the same points into the ground. And I think what I want to do is wait until something, major happens before I talk about it again. But, Suyu popping out there just seems to be the talk of the town lately, and I wanted to let everyone know how I feel about it, and, why I'm choosing not to use it right now.